Righto, righto. Let's see here. Yeah. Let's go over here. Yep. And we're gonna set this up right. Yeah. There we go. Get that. All right. We're gonna close that, and we're gonna go here, and we're gonna go here. There we go. Alright. Okay. There we go. Mr. J Chip, how's it going, sir? We'll be getting started here in just a couple minutes. Just a couple minutes. Hey, 7th, it's Metalhead Nate. Oh, hi. New screen name, huh? Nihon Sama. Well, all right then. All right then. Hey, Jay. How's it going, sir? Give it 2 minutes and we'll get started here. Same old, Chris G. Same old. We'll be starting up here shortly. Oh, I forgot to reset the donation bar. Oh well. I don't care. Doing some Far Cry 5, gonna get 6 when it goes on sale. I couldn't care less about the Far Cry series. I haven't cared about the Far Cry series once I realized that they were not going to have a linked story after part 2. You know, when it was no longer a sci-fi related story with the genetic mutation and all that stuff. When they got out of that, I didn't care anymore. I haven't cared since. That being said, you know, I do have the plats on Far Cry 4 and Far Cry Primal, but, you know, that was me just checking in to see, has anything gotten any better? No? Okay. Saw The Shining for the first time. It was, wow. Now you got to go watch the sequel, Dr. Sleep. Got to go watch Dr. Sleep now. Lots of fan service in that movie. I like it. Obviously, it's not as good as The Shining, but it's a good movie. I liked it. All right, so we've only got 6 viewers so far, which I kind of expected that because when I'm gone for a while, everyone kind of forgets that I'm here. But it's 6 o'clock. It's Saturday, October 9th, and this is the 7thCast, as always. I am your venerable host, your friendly neighborhood 7th. 8th is off in his room doing something. I have no idea what. That's usually the way it goes. And, yeah, I've been gone for a while. What can I say? I don't do YouTube for a living. I work in IT. And combination of personal stuff that's been going on, plus things that are going on at work, have required me to be there and available far more than I otherwise normally would. In fact, the only reason that I'm free today was because I busted my butt all week to catch things up as much as I could so that I would not have to be here, be at work on a Saturday. So, you know, for the time being, I'm all right. Something else could break because it's all, I'm not going to go into big details, but it all has to do with a new software rollout that replaced a system that we had been using that we shouldn't have ever invested in the first place. But, concerned voices were ignored. And so we had to put up with that particular piece of software for the last 7 years. And they finally replaced it. But the license on the old software was going to expire this month, which was not going to allow them much for beta testing because they didn't want to have to pay the license for two applications that do the same thing, so as to give the new one more time for testing. And so they basically launched it straight into production, and big surprise, there's a bunch of bugs. And so that's what I've been busy with. It is what it is. This is the world of IT. That's how it goes. And so I haven't been around as much. Tried to make it up a little bit by actually trying to do a little bit of seventh a ween this year, only to have only 100 people watch the damn thing. So I don't know if I'm going to continue with that or not. It seems like unless I'm doing a review or unless I'm doing some kind of a console war thing like replying to MLD, the YouTube algorithm doesn't allow it to get an audience. It just withers on the vine and dies. And the only people that watch it are the same 30 to 100 people that occasionally watch this show. And the thing of it is, I can't really go by the audience that I see logged in live because most people don't watch the 7thCast live. They watch the recap. The recap gets 700-800 views. Meanwhile, 14 to 30 people when I do it live. But if I try to branch out and do something different, do something new, algorithm kills it. And that includes anything that has 7th Ween in the title of it. I'm fairly confident that doing 7th Ween is partly what killed me on the algorithm back several years ago and caused my channel to flop. And the reason I say that is because, I would be averaging 4, 5, 6,000 views, and in some cases way more than that, like 50, 60,000 views. And then I did 7th Ween, which also coincided with when I started doing the 7thCast full time, and people weren't watching those videos. And so the algorithm looks at that and says, this idiot just did 31 straight videos that nobody watched. He must really suck. And I haven't gotten good views since. There was a few exceptions, but for the most part, it's been dead for a long time, and it all seemed to start going downhill when I started 7th Ween. So at this point, channel's already dead, so I don't really care that much anymore. But, I took the time to talk about a crappy old horror movie from the 80s that I still like, and I listed the reasons why I like it and whatnot. 100 views. 100 views! That's correct, Chris. That's correct. I tried to send you a super chat. It wouldn't load for me. My apologies. Well, you could always do this up here. That reminds me. 3-hour podcast, 6 to 9 p.m. Can be extended by donation. Up to 6 hours, depending on the amount. Got the link right up there. Anyway. There ain't been much. I don't have a whole lot in the way of set topics today because there hasn't really been that much going on. Everyone's excited about Metroid Dread, and that's great. Metroid's a good series. Been a little bit of controversy about that because the journalists out there have been giving it 7s for being too hard. Too hard. The same people that couldn't get past the tutorial in Cuphead. The same people who were shooting health packs in Doom. The same people that gave perfect scores to Gone Home, they think Metroid is too hard. And you wonder why things blew up in their face in 2014. I'm just saying. We learned back then that a lot of these folks are not actual gamers. They are people that went to school for journalism thinking that they were instantly going to come out of college and wind up on 60 Minutes, only to find out that there's way more people with a journalism degree than there is a journalism job. And so where did they end up? Writing video game reviews. And now you are seeing the fruits of that. Hey, your fellow gamers tried to warn you in 2014. They tried to warn you. Some of them went nuts and became far right freakouts, but hey, tried to warn you. That's as close to politics as I get on this stream, by the way. What can I say? Meanwhile, speaking of gaming journalists, a guy I'd never heard of up until a couple of days ago, Saltiest Gaming, decided that Colin Moriarty, who's well known in the gaming journalist circles, had been rude or mean to PlayStation fans, and decided to run his mouth about Mr. Moriarty, probably thinking, hey, you know what? I'm so small time that someone like Moriarty is not even going to care. Oh, how wrong he was. And by small time, I mean, this guy is only 3,000 subs bigger than me. And I used to be at that same level as him, just a little bit higher, before the algorithm decided to kick me to the curb. So old Colin decided that he didn't much care for what Salty had to say about him, and asked to come on his next show. And Salty, having more mouth than common sense, agreed to it. But without doing any research, without doing any planning, without doing any looking into, the finer points of Colin and his career. And Colin just straight up owned his ass live in front of Salty's own audience. It was a bloodbath. It was brutal. It was almost to the point of being disturbing. Colin owned him worse than I owned MLD in our debate. It was bad. And that's coming from me. And even I was, when I didn't watch the whole thing, but, I'd seen bits and pieces of it. And even I was like, oh. That's better for late time TV. That ain't prime time. Oh. So how does Salty respond? He took the truth setting you free route and deleted all of it, including the live chat. And he was like, and he posted, I apologize. I clearly misread the situation and I was rude and I shouldn't have done this and that. You were trying to save your own reputation is what you were doing. I'm sure your core audience will still watch you. I'm sure that won't be a problem. But this ain't going away anytime soon. Certainly not overnight, kind sir. You really stepped in it. Good God. Anytime that you're going to want to get into trolling, I'll give you an example. I'm not going to say what his name is because he and we're getting along now after he figured out what's what. But there is a pro Xbox troll who I noticed was showing up an awful lot in responses to General MLD's tweets. And I could see what he was doing. And being me, I was intentionally setting off some of his troll traps, but replying to him with stuff that he would have no real counter for. And so, because he didn't have any real counter, and not being, as I could tell, a very experienced troll, he was resorting to the look how I bait these PlayStation fanboys. They fall for the bait. And it didn't take long for him to eventually figure out, oh, wait a minute. I'm being reverse trolled by one of the old school PlayStation trolls. And so he got clued into who I was and my history, and he backed off. And, now we're following each other and we get along just fine. Because that's how I tend to do. I don't really hold grudges against anybody. Except for JTech TV. He can kiss my ass. But that's what I'm getting at here. You never go into a debate, a blind debate, with somebody who's already pissed at you to begin with, without at least making sure that you were right in what you said in the first place, and two, making sure you know who your opponent is and what they are capable of and what their modus operandi is and what typical troll techniques and debating techniques they use. Salty didn't do any of that. He thought he was going to bring Colin in there and just give him the business for being so mean and so cruel to PlayStation fans, and he got destroyed. You hate to see it. Well, not really. It was entertaining, but you hate to see it. Let this be a lesson to you, Salty. Don't go into a fight unarmed, sir. You will lose every time. And you, sir, were unarmed. Well, that was the only topic I had for the day. So, everything's free for all now. Y'all can start asking questions. So let me just scroll up, make sure that I'm catching up with everything. J-Chip, 7th update was a fun series. Shame the algorithm wasn't into it. Yeah, I know. I had fun doing the 7th update. Not so much 8th, because every time I filmed one, he had to come in and control the camera. Because the camera didn't have good focus on it. And so he'd have to come in and make sure that the camera was staying in focus, and he hated it. He hated sitting in there watching me tell corny jokes for 30 minutes at a time. But no one was watching it, so I got rid of it. That's what I do. If I post, I'll do a couple of months of it, and if it ain't working, I kill it. I kill it, and I don't bring it back. I tried it with the 7th with the 7th Halloween, and short of a handful of the people that are in here right now, y'all didn't watch it. So I don't know if I'm going to do any more of those this month or not. I might not. Who cares about the Switch OLED? I certainly don't. What good does it do to put an OLED on it if you're still having crappy frame rates and low textures and bad shadows and all that kind of crap? Who cares? The best graphics you're going to get out of the Switch is running it on a TV, not as a handheld. And it's going to be crappy either way. So why bother? Why waste the money? Just wait until there's an actual, real upgrade. Saltiest Gaming. Yes, that's his name. Saltiest Gaming. 7th, look at your Streamlab. I know, it hasn't updated since... I forgot to update it, and the last time I did a 7th cast, somebody... Oh, it's misspelled. Streamlabs. Sorry about that. Streamlabs. Go donate to Streamlabs. But, yeah. Let's see here. 7th, do you watch David Jaffe? I watch him every now and again. Some things I agree with him on. Some things I disagree with him on. I thought it was kind of laughable that he would have Hip Hop Gamer on as a guest and take him seriously when he's a proven fraud. But other than that, I got no issue with Jaffe. I liked his games. You know, a lot of the time we agree on his opinions on specific games that he talks about and reviews. But that's about it. Let's see here. How are you, 7th? I'm trying to get my hands on a PS5 at retail price. Do you know a way? Be lucky enough to walk into a store when it has one. I haven't been in the market for one because we got two. So why would I be looking, you know? I hope you find one, but yes, Saltiest Gamer. That's who I'm talking about, Krusty. Toronto Guy, $10. Thank you for the donation, Toronto Guy. Sitting in a theater waiting for Venom to start. Have some money. Thank you, sir. You know, one of the guys that was involved in the Trey Brotherhood thing back in the day that a lot of people have probably forgotten about now, black dude, his name was, I think it was Toronto Cody. Toronto Cody, I think that was his name. He was a pretty funny dude. Let's see here. 8th already saw Venom. He said it was good. I didn't see it. He went to see it with friends. I'll catch it when it's on streaming. I don't care. I watched the Fear No Evil episode. Well, thanks for watching it, Krusty. I have a soft spot in my heart for that movie. And I know the effects are way out of date, and it's just a ripoff of The Omen, and some of it is cheesy and corny. I don't care. I still love it. There's a lot of horror movies that I wouldn't call good horror movies, but I love them anyway. Demonoid is one, which is about the devil's hand being found in a mine in like Mexico, and the devil hand goes nuts. Yeah, I love stuff like that. No, I have not played Metroid Dread. Hi, Stranded J. 7th, did you like the film It Follows? It was alright. Wasn't the best horror movie I've seen. Had a couple of cool moments, but you know, I didn't see it as some horror masterpiece like some other people have thought of it. It just was decent. Have you gotten to play Tales of Arise? No, I have it, but I haven't gotten to play it. It's been in 8th room. Kind of how it goes. What's up with this Saltiest Gaming guy? Give me the short version. Well, I already covered it, and you were late, so you didn't hear it. The short version is he said a bunch of inaccurate stuff about Colin Moriarty in one of his streams. Colin heard about it, kind of challenged him to a debate. He showed up on Saltiest next stream, and Colin owned his ass all up and down the internet. That's what happened. From formerly Metalhead Nate. 7, things are finally looking up for me. I have a full-time job and a part-time job. Got approved for a credit card for the first time. My goal is to get a motorcycle. What's your opinion on bikes? Don't do the motorcycle thing. I've had too many friends over the years get injured on them. The only thing I can really say to you, Nate, is to be careful with the credit cards. You know, you want to build an established credit rating. A credit card can be good. Just make sure that you're making small purchases on it and that you're paying them off regularly. You know, make a small purchase and try to have it paid off within 3 months. Then make another small purchase, have it paid off within 3 months. That will build your credit. Do not max that credit card out and then get stuck with an enormous monthly payment that is mostly going to interest. Don't do that to yourself. You'll regret it. Nobody knows that better than me. Got engaged last weekend. Congratulations. Did you get my tweet about Gamer Nate? Yeah, but I never really paid that much attention to Gamer Nate. He was kind of fringe, I guess you could say. I think I might have had one run-in with him. But it wasn't even a video run-in, I don't think. I think it was like, like I said some comment about him, like, and he took offense to my comment or something. I don't know. It was a long time ago. A lot of these guys that came after my time that you guys talk about, I don't even know who the hell they are. I kept up with the people that were involved in the Trey Brotherhood and the Xbox Republic, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, and some of the the Wii folks like Black Baron and Shokyo and what have you. But some of the guys that came in after that, like Nate and a few others, I just nah. Seen any cool anime lately? Not really. Why isn't the camera focused on the background? Because I have the blur feature enabled. That's why. I have the blur feature enabled. Just because I can. Just because I think it's neat. Why is everyone in this community so mental? Well, let's just say that there's, it would seem that the internet is the way it is because folks that suffer from various social or anxietal disorders view the internet as a safe haven where they feel that they can say and do the things online that they would be frozen in fear to try to say or do in public. And unfortunately, some of the things they say and do on the internet are things that even if they weren't suffering from said disorders, they shouldn't be saying or doing in public. That's really the extent of it. My limit is 300 at 13%. 1,300 ain't too bad. All the same, just like you said, I wouldn't put anything more on it than $200 at a time, then pay it off in a couple of months, then put another $200, pay it off in a couple of months, and that will slowly build your credit rating up. Oh! Well, let's see. What else is going on? Just until the questions pick up a little bit. Movies that I've seen. Let's see. I finally got around to watching that movie Love and Monsters. And I wasn't going into it with a lot of expectation because of who was in it. And I just felt that it was likely going to be some kind of a leftover film from the young adult adventure movies from the early 2000s, where you had Maze Runner and Twilight and all this stuff going on. That's what I felt it was going to be, and that's not what it is at all. It was a fun movie. I enjoyed it. Had a good time with it. Let's see. Have you checked out the Squid Game? Yeah, I've already watched Squid Game. It's a good show. I really enjoyed it. In fact, I was mentioning it on Twitter before everyone else caught on to it and started talking about it. All of y'all were like 2 or 3 weeks behind me. What else have I watched? Newest season of the Doom Patrol started. And I'm still loving the hell out of Doom Patrol. It has such a warped sense of humor. You had guys that in this latest episode that they got attacked by a werebutt, which is a guy who turns into a giant butt with teeth. That's my sense of humor all up and down the road, man. So I'm enjoying that show. No, I don't really care about any of the characters depicted in it from a comic book point of view, but I'm liking the show because it's got a warped sense of humor, and that suits me. Have you talked about? Yes, I already talked about that. You were late. That'll teach you to show up on time next time. Moving on. 7th. What would you give Black Widow out of 7? 4.5. It up until the climax of the movie, it felt more like they were trying to do a Jason Bourne style of film, and it's not that it's a bad movie. It just doesn't do anything really for the MCU because of the fact that by the time you sit down to watch this, you already know how her story ends. So all this is doing is filling in holes that didn't necessarily need to be filled in, other than the fact that had they done the smart thing and made this movie before Captain Marvel, so that this was the movie that led to Endgame, it would have granted more emotional weight to Black Widow's death in Endgame. But they didn't do that. They waited until after she was dead to make this movie, and so when she did die, there wasn't all that much emotional weight to it because she hadn't been treated as a major character in any of the other films. She was a side character in Iron Man 2. She was a side character when she appeared in the Captain America movie. She was a side character, supporting character in the Avengers films. This movie should have been the one that came out in Captain Marvel's slot. And then it still wouldn't have been, a great movie, although I did like it better than Captain Marvel. I haven't seen Shang-Chi yet. I've heard it's good. 8th saw it and loved it, but I have not seen that one yet. Dr. Sleep, I would give a solid 5.5. It has some drag spots. Its villain is not as iconic, but it's a really well-made film. It's got good acting in it, and the way they loop it in and tie it to the original film, I think really works. In fact, I think it works better than the book that it's based on. But make sure you get the director's cut, the extended director's cut. It's better. Regular version's fine. Director's cut is better. Yes, I've seen the film Zodiac. I like it a lot. I know it's old news, but what are your feelings about Kentaro Miro passing away? Me personally, I cried for at least a day and a half. That's what, the composer of the Dragon Quest music? Well, he made good music. I know he was a controversial figure because of some of his views. But I was not even aware of those views prior to his passing away. All I knew was that he made the music to the Dragon Quest games, and the music was good. Wasn't something that I shed a tear over, though. If I'm thinking about the same person. Did you like Wonder Woman 1984? No, it was terrible. Oh, the guy that wrote Berserk. Okay, I'm getting my Japanese artists mixed up, because the guy who did the music for Dragon Quest died this week. So I thought that's who you were talking about. I'm not, I'm a fan of Berserk, but I'm a fan of the anime of Berserk. I've never really gotten into the manga because I've never cared for reading manga in general. I'm more of an anime guy. And so, I've, with the exception of this newest Berserk, which sucks, I enjoyed the original Berserk anime, and I liked the Golden Arc OVAs that they did. I would say that 8th was probably more distraught over his death than I would have been. I mean, it sucks that you know it's never you're unless somebody else picks up the storyline, which probably I would say almost assuredly would not be the same unless he left copious notes about where he wanted the story to go. We're never going to get the final resolve between him and Griffin. That's going to be a story that will remain untold, and that sucks. But yeah, sorry about that. I got confused because we had another uh, famous Japanese artist that passed away this week, and I thought that's who you're referring to. My bad. He was the one with the really controversial views, but he was in his 80s. He lived a long, full life, and he's left a lot. He's left behind a lot of good music for people to remember him by. I'm sure his main theme will, and many of his other themes, will continue to be used in Dragon Quest games in the future, far long after he's gone. What's worse, Captain Marvel or Wonder Woman 1984? Wonder Woman 1984. The main thing with Captain Marvel is that it's bland, has an unlikable hero, and it's just a cookie cutter comic book movie. Wonder Woman took a character and an actress's performance of said character that had become quite popular, and then saddled her with just a horrible, horrible movie. It would be like Michael Keaton coming back to being Batman and Robin. That's how bad it was. Well, then there's not much hope, is there, 8th? Not unless he had some protege working with him who could carry it on. Seventh, are you looking forward to the Tomorrow War sequel? It's dumb. They're making a sequel to that? Why? I thought it tied the story up fairly well. I mean, I know it had kind of an open end to it, but, you know, I don't really see the need for a sequel with that one. Miss the Berserk manga. Due to Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft having their own conferences, do you think they'll retire E3 for good? Uh, it's hard to say. It's hard to say. Because the industry might keep it alive and just turn it into, another big gaming convention type of thing, which is kind of what's happening with it. But already said it was over. They released the last issue he wrote not long ago. Well, same thing was said when Frank Herbert died, and then, decade or two later, here comes his son and starts writing new Dune books. I'm just saying. Never say never. Don't remember if you're a James Bond fan or not, but the newest James Bond movie was really good. Not as good as Skyfall or Casino Royale, though. But was it as good as Spectre? What studio do you think Sony will buy next? Well, I think that kind of depends on how well this Raven studio that run by that woman who used to work for Ubisoft. Can't remember her name now. Depends on how good that game is. If that game ends up being, a real hit, either commercially or critically or both, they very well could be the next studio that Sony snatches up, because they've already made it quite clear in interviews that they would love to be a Sony studio. Wanted Dead is like Devil's Third. Okay. Do you think John Wick will be the new James Bond? No, I don't think so. Because so much of what makes John Wick what it is Keanu Reeves playing that role. Because prior to the first John Wick film, that's the kind of role that you wouldn't necessarily have pictured Keanu Reeves doing, especially at his age. So that's part of the appeal of those films. If you tried to continue John Wick like James Bond did, some people said that James Bond wouldn't work without Sean Connery, but it did. But in this case, I don't think John Wick would work without anyone other than Keanu Reeves doing it. Not in the way that James Bond does, anyway. They would have to finish it out with him, and then 10, 20 years later, bring John Wick back with a new actor as a full reboot with a different tone and everything. There's two different animals there that are liked for different reasons. Seventh, what do you think of the GTA Trilogy remaster announcement? I don't care. I already have all of them on PS2. And I've told you guys this before. I liked San Andreas. It was my favorite of the Grand Theft Auto games that I've played. But I'm not really a Grand Theft Auto fan. Berserk saved me from hating anime. Nobody can deny that Guts is probably the most badass and hardcore. This is true. I really can't think of anybody in anime that is more of a diehard badass than Guts. Now, that being said, there are certainly anime characters that could defeat Guts in battle. But as far as just being a merciless, brutal, remorseless badass, nobody tops Guts. Saitama could totally destroy him in one hit, but he wouldn't be as badass as Guts. It just is what it is. Yes, Master Chief, I think we all know about the new Matrix movie coming. I'm going to be watching it for free on HBO. Seventh, would the Breath of the Wild weapon break mechanic be more tolerable if weapons broke only if you're under a required class within some sort of a leveling up class system? I just don't like breakable weapons, period. I didn't like having to fix armor and weapons in Skyrim, and I don't like it even worse in Breath of the Wild. I wish you could just turn that off as an optional thing. Kenshiro doesn't have the overwhelming and unstoppable rage that Guts has. Kenshiro is more like the wise sage, martial arts master who's coming to restore the balance kind of thing. Kenshiro is more like your typical character that you'd see in a Bruce Lee movie. Whereas Guts is just, a couple of buckets of pure, unfiltered rage poured into a suit of armor. Eighth is correct. That being said, Kratos would kill him. Kratos would kill Guts. But as far as badassness, I consider them side by side. Slick, I don't really, I've never really gotten into Attack on Titan or whatever. That's more Eight's thing. I don't watch every anime that comes out. I'll watch one episode of something, and if it appeals to me, I'll keep watching it. That being said, it's a relatively rare thing for me to get into a show enough to watch it all the way through. I couldn't tell you the last time that I found an anime where I just completely got absorbed in it. Where I just marathoned the whole thing start to finish. I watched the first 15 episodes of Tokyo Revengers or whatever, and I was, starting to like that. But I'm waiting on HBO to get the rest of the episodes so I can just marathon it and not have to wait for the new episode to come out or whatever. Yes, I liked Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer was good. I liked the Demon Slayer movie. It was really good. And I'm still watching Black Clover. I really like Black Clover because I like the main character, Asta. I like Asta. Asta's funny. So, so I tend to go for two things in anime. I either go for really dark and bloody and disturbing, or I go for something with a good sense of humor that's got a lot of that over the top anime humor to it. And so I like Black Clover. I don't know, Seventh, if you take away all the magical abilities from Kratos and just make it an actual skill-based sword fight, that would be a close fight. Well, I mean, both of them are trained killers. But not to take away from Guts training, but you know, Kratos was a freaking Spartan, so training was their business, and business was good. Also, my hero isn't going downhill. It was always iffy. It's just after dealing with it for so long, it's gotten old. Yeah, my hero has really sunken into this formula where every season, the first half of the season is using their training exercises to introduce new characters, and none of the new characters are any good, except for that one that has the one who lost all of his powers, the super big guy. He was a fun character. Uh, but the rest of them, no. How has your day been thus far? Uneventful. Me and Eighth watched the newest. I'd already seen it once, but I rewatched it with him. The newest Dave Chappelle special, and that's been about it. I got up around 8:30 this morning and played little video games, and then watched YouTube videos until it was time for the 7thCast to start. That's been about it. I just wanted to chill out and not work on anything and turn my brain off because I have been working and working and working and working and working, and I needed a break, which I'm going to have a break coming up on October 22nd. I'll be off 4 days in a row, but I do have a sad announcement to make. Once again, I have had to cancel my my plans to go to Retropalooza this year. And it wasn't a money issue this time. It was more of a personal thing. I've got reasons that are going to that mean I need to stay local. I don't need to be out of town for a while. No, I'm not in any trouble. Eight's not in any trouble. It's not anything like that. It's mainly because of work. With all these things that are going on, I could get called into work at a moment's notice. And if they tried to call me in and I'm in a hotel up in Arlington, that's going to cause problems. They're not going to like that. So, unfortunately, once again, for the second straight con, I've had to cancel. And on top of that, I have so many friends in the retro community that are catching the coof. And, I just don't know, with me having the myriad of health problems that I have, even with me being fully vaccinated, I don't know if it's a good idea for me to be going up around a bunch of people that were there from all over the country and not knowing, have they had the shot? Have they not had the shot? So as much as I wanted to be there to help Jay and help set everything up and whatnot and hang out with my friends, it's just not going to happen this year. So here I have these days scheduled off, and now I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to be sitting in the house in case my boss calls and says, "Hey, I'm sorry, I know you're supposed to be off today, but we need you." Do you watch Dark Side of the Ring? Yes, I do. I love Dark Side of the Ring. It's fun. What's cooking? Nothing. We already ate. I've been watching Tiger and Bunny on Netflix, and aside from the mediocre CGI, it's pretty good. Tiger and Bunny is a fun show. It's just a shame that it never made it, that they never kept making it. That's a show that I could have kept watching for a while. But, they made the episodes that they did, and then it was over with. Meanwhile, Seven Deadly Sins keeps getting renewed. I liked the first season of Seven Deadly Sins, but I just haven't been able to get back into it. It's like the first season was good, but everything that's come after that's been kind of... Have you watched any of the Vampire Hunter D movies? Those in Hellsing are also my favorites. I've seen... Have there been more than two? Because otherwise I've seen them. I've seen Vampire Hunter D and Vampire Hunter D Bloodlines. I liked them both, although I liked the first one a lot better. It sucks having a job that's on call. Well, I mean, that's part of being on a salaried position, I get paid the same amount whether I work 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week. They don't care. I get paid the same amount. Didn't used to be that way. Before I got promoted, if I worked 60 hours that week, I was getting 20 hours of that, time and a half. Not anymore. Ain't nothing cool that I could do to replace Retropalooza Ultra Steel. Because it's not like I can say, "Hey, let's just go have a double feature marathon," because I'm not sitting in a movie theater with a bunch of people. Not right now. I'm not. I don't trust this vaccine all that much because they're saying on the news that all the vaccines now, they lose their effectiveness after 6 months. Well, as of this month, in a couple of weeks, mine will have been 5 months old. So I've got like a month of usefulness left out of my vaccination. And then I guess I'm going to have to get a booster or something. I don't know. That or just continue to not go anywhere. I watched a couple of episodes of Star Wars Visions. I watched the one about a droid that became a Jedi. And then I watched the one that was basically, a samurai movie. I haven't watched any of the other ones. What's the worst Rocky film? Rocky 5. How will Hulk Hogan be remembered when he dies? He'll be remembered as the guy who put wrestling on the map, but he did so by stepping upon the shoulders of giants. Yeah, but on the bright side, you're still less likely to be hospitalized. So, well, yeah, if I was to catch it, most likely, at the worst, it would just be like having a cold. But I can't take that chance because, I'm a 46-year-old man who, you know, has health problems, and all of those health problems are the health problems that the people that catch it and wind up in the hospital have. So I can't take that risk. Eighth is not financially independent yet. So if something happens to me, he's screwed. So I got to stay here, and I got to stay here as long as I can. So I'm trying to be as safe as I can. Seventh, have you checked out the Umbrella Academy? Not bad. Yeah, but one of its main characters, Ellen Page, is now Elliot Page. So I'm kind of doubting that series is going to carry on, at least with her character, his character in it. Seventh, could you make a top 7 favorite anime show lists? I could probably do that, but aside from you, hardly anybody would watch it. Because I've made several top 7 videos, nobody watched them. Nobody watched them. It's like I'm saying, I'm stuck. And that's one of the things that sucks about YouTube. The algorithm is forcing people to stay in their zone. It prevents people from being able to branch out and try something new. And that's why you have folks out there who their channel has become basically built to manipulate the algorithm, and they post more or less the same video over and over again several times a day. And that's why YouTube is as bland and as boring as it is now. Because people who are trying to do this for a living can't make the videos they want to make anymore. They have to make the videos that's going to keep the ad revenue coming in. Is what it is. Try making a new channel. Too much work. Too much work. Eighth and I was talking, and he was talking about I should create another channel and move the 7thCast over to that channel and do the 7thCast on it and make my videos on this one. But even when I moved the 7thCast over to Twitch, it didn't help the numbers for the videos that I was still posting on here. It didn't change anything. Did you know the Great Exposer got his channel back? He loses and gets his channel back all the time. What's the top 7 anime off the top of your head at this moment? I don't know that I could name 7 that I liked that much. I told you, I'm not a diehard anime guy. I'm more of a dabbler. I find what I like and I stick with that. I don't explore a hell of a whole lot. And the reason being is because I hate it when I find something that I do like and I watch it and I get really into it and then it never gets another season. Case in point, Black Blood Brothers. I really liked Black Blood Brothers. It was a one and done. You watched the episodes that came out and then that was it. At least with something like Black Clover, we're 140, 150, 160 something episodes in. I'm cool with that. Have you seen the screenshot of Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal as Joel and Ellie? No. Because I don't care. No offense to you, Chris. I'm not a fan of the games. Why would I be a fan of the show, 7th, are there any games that heavily revolve around Atlantis? I don't know. There was a 2600 game called Atlantis. I know that much. I haven't seen Venom 2. 8th liked it. That's the only opinion that I've really paid attention to about it so far. Worst 7 games last gen. Not something I could come up with off the top of my head. And you got to remember, I haven't played every game last gen. 7th, I'm sure you've seen The Expanse last season coming out. I have not seen The Expanse. I tried to watch the first episode of it, and I got bored to tears and turned it off. Did you like the anime Hellsing? It was okay. I don't like it as much as Berserk, but it was okay. Yeah, Ultra Steel, you might be disappointed by that 2600 game, man. It's your typical 2600 game. You know, you really have to use your imagination a lot to believe that you're seeing anything that has to do with Atlantis in the Atlantis game. Are you going to watch the new Resident Evil film? Yeah, but I don't have any high expectations for it. Because, you know, I've read who's doing it and seen who's starring in it and whatnot. And I don't know, man. And you also have to take into account, I'm not a big fan of Resident Evil to begin with because I'm not a big fan of, you know, survival horror games. Interesting. Let's see here. Ultra Steel. It might also interest you to know, and no, I have not played it, so I do not know if it's any good. I would imagine that it is not, but there is a video game on the PlayStation 1 that's based on Disney's Atlantis: The Lost Empire. I have no idea what kind of game it is. I have not played it. I've not seen screen captures of it, but it runs for about $30 now for a complete copy. But you might want to look into that if you're just wanting to play something about Atlantis. Also, there was the old Lucasfilm or LucasArts Indiana Jones point and click adventure game that had to do with Atlantis. If you've got the software to run those old point and click adventure games on your PC, that also might be one you want to look into. Let's see here. Let me catch up. Thoughts on rumors of Sly Cooper returning to PS5. Sony teased it last. If Sony teased it, I didn't see it. 7th, will you be playing Far Cry 6? Not anytime soon. I'll play it when I can get it for $20. Not sure if I asked you this, but have you ever owned a 5200? I had a 5200 and then I lost it in the infamous yard sale debacle of 2004. I have not repurchased one since because I haven't found a good deal on one. Every time that I've gone to Retropalooza, I have looked for a box complete 5200 and have not found one. I tried watching that movie Snowpiercer, and I didn't care for that movie all that much. There were certain aspects of it that I liked, but for the most part, it was just kind of... I don't know why, but I thought about getting a complete 5200 last week, and the next day I gave up with that idea. I'd like to have one, because it's one of the ones that I'm missing. I'm missing 5200. I'm missing the Bally Astrocade. I'm missing the Emerson Arcadia. I'm missing the Fairchild Channel F. And I don't have the original Magnavox Odyssey. I also don't have the LaserVision, that Pioneer thing that was $2,000 and still goes for a ridiculous amount of money that I will likely never have. And I no longer have a Neo Geo because I traded it to Captain Retro to get my arcade cabinet. Yes, it's 7 o'clock. It is 7 o'clock. It is 7 o'clock. We are 2 hours away from the end of the show. We are $40 away from the 10 o'clock extension. We've had one $10 donation by Master Chief. No, I've never watched the 100 on Netflix. I heard that point and click game you're mentioning gave people thalassophobia, fear of the ocean. What one? The Indiana Jones Atlantis game? Do you think Amber Heard should be fired? Kinda, yeah. 7th, have you seen Stargate? Yes. I've seen Stargate. I like Kurt Russell in it, but I gotta say I was disappointed with the world building. It felt wasted. I wanted more creative stuff from it. Well, then you should probably watch the Stargate show that was based on the movie. I mean, the special effects aren't that special. It's a show from the 90s. But it had a very strong fan following for a number of years. And so if you're wanting more world building, then you should probably watch Stargate SG-1. And then Stargate Atlantis. I really like Stargate. If there was anything I was disappointed by in it, it would have been some of the special effects. Like there's some scenes where the enemy's airships go flying overhead, and you can clearly see ropes where they've been basically tied to a pole, and people are just swinging it around the pole to get that banking effect of it flying overhead. You can see the ropes. But otherwise, I really like that one, especially the score. Stargate has an amazing score. I love the score to that movie. And it's interesting that you should mention Stargate, Ultra Steel, since Atlantis, The Lost Empire, Disney's film, even though people say that it stole from that anime, Blue whatever, I can't remember the name of it now, it actually steals a lot from Stargate, including having the same opening where, nerdy guy who no one believes is giving this little presentation, but in Atlantis, he's trying to prove that Atlantis exists, and in Stargate, he's trying to prove basically that the pyramids were built by aliens. So, very similar films. Very similar films. So, kind of funny that you would bring that up after bringing up Atlantis. Are you a fan of the 7800? I still have a 7800. I don't have many games for it, but I still have one. And yes, I'm a fan. The yard sale of 2004 cost you a lot. Oh, definitely. Definitely. My collection to this day is not as big as my collection was when that yard sale occurred. As far as the retro stuff goes. Current stuff, I'm able to afford a lot more with current gen than I did with current gen back then, because I make a lot more money now. You know, when When the great yard sale debacle of 2000, the infamous yard sale debacle of 2004 happened, I was still working for the Walt Disney Company, and Walt Disney does not pay crap. That being said, I would still, despite everything, I would still like to have a Polymega if I could afford one. But it's almost $1,000 to buy that system and all the modules for the other systems. But I would like to have the $400 unit just to be able to play my old Saturn games on it. Because it plays Saturn. It'll play Saturn and Sega CD and PlayStation and Neo Geo CD. I would buy the base unit just to be able to, play my Saturn games without putting any additional wear and tear on the actual console. But $400, don't really have $400 to spend on that because now I'm having to pay $300 a month on my student loan. I'm going to have to get a couple of more bonuses and a couple of more raises before I'm back in the green. What was that anime that they said was that Atlantis was ripping off? Nadia of Blue Water or whatever the hell? Yeah, I think that was it. But in my mind, it steals more from Stargate than it does from that. Battlestar Galactica, Star Trek, or Stargate? Star Trek. And going back to your question, 7th, yeah, the indie point and click game of Atlantis, I think you ride a submarine in it. I'm thinking of the Indiana Jones one. I'm fairly certain that there was another point and click adventure game that was about Atlantis, but that's not the one that has Indiana Jones in it. Somebody donate $10,000 to 7th quick just to see the reaction of nobody's ever going to donate 10 grand to me. And if they did, it'd be fake. For one thing, I don't have any rich followers. I love you guys, but y'all ain't rich. If y'all were rich, I could quit my job. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I wouldn't do that. I'd be bored to tears trying to do YouTube for a living. Shit. Do you think the Star Wars sequel trilogy was a mistake? Yes. They should have used George Lucas's scripts and just, modernized those scripts a little bit instead of doing what they did. He handed them script treatments for the next 3 films and they just tossed them in the garbage. Just tossed them away, even though Kathleen Kennedy promised him that she would make sure that his legacy was maintained and kept. And she tossed his scripts in the trash. Ultra Steel. Yeah, I noticed the similarities. That's why I watched Stargate 94. When I loved Disney's Atlantis The Lost Empire. Nostalgia Critic pointed this stuff out in his review. Yeah, but I pointed it out years and years ago. Before, on the 7thCast. On a couple of occasions. Before Nostalgia Critic ever did anything about it. What retro games have you been playing lately? Well, I've replayed, speaking of Lucasfilm, or LucasArts, I replayed several of Tim Schafer's point-and-click adventure games. I replayed through Day of the Tentacle, and I replayed through Full Throttle. I was intending to replay through Grim Fandango today, but I didn't get around to it. Which was better, the PSP or the DS? I liked the PSP better. DS had a better library, but I liked the PSP better. Thoughts on Sony at the end of the month not letting you use debit or credit to buy PS3 Vita games, only gift cards? Don't care, because I don't buy digital games for either one of those. Do you still do donation reviews? Donation review? Oh, you mean if somebody sends me a game, I'll play it and review it? If someone wants me to play it badly enough, I guess I could do that. The reason that I stopped doing it was because people liked the the video that I did for Hannah Montana so much that it got to the point where all people were intentionally going out on eBay and finding the god awfulest game they could possibly find and sending it to me, including games that were like old ass PC games that I didn't even have the hardware or software to run. And I'm like, how am I supposed to review this? And so I stopped because people weren't listening when I was trying to establish ground rules that it has to be for a system I own or I can't review it. But yeah, if somebody had something that they wanted me to review that I don't currently already own, they can hit me up on my DMs and Twitter and tell me what it is, and I'll tell them where to send it, and when I get it, I'll play it and I'll review it. But it has to be on something that I own where I can actually play it. But could we still get the reaction of if someone sent $10,000? No, because it wouldn't be genuine. It would probably be something along the facts of, oh God, the feds are going to own my ass! I will say this about the Star Wars sequel trilogy, at least Force Awakens. The ending of it and build up to Rey meeting Luke on that island was epic and special, but then The Last Jedi happened. I don't even think the ending to Force Awakens is that great because they should have had Luke all the way through the movie, not just as a voiceless cameo in the last 10 seconds of the movie. That's what I think. Why is Sony trying to keep the Vita relevant though they gave up on it? Because they're still making money off of it. Thoughts on James Rolfe being caught plagiarizing? Well, James wasn't caught plagiarizing. Screenwave Media the writer who was writing for James for Screenwave Media was caught plagiarizing. But that's not really that much better because that's admitting to the fact that James is not writing as much of his own stuff as he would like everyone to think that he is. But those of us who have been watching him for years can easily tell when it's his writing and when it's not, and he doesn't do much of his own writing anymore and hasn't for quite a long time. I understand why he did it. I'm not faulting him for going the route that he did. But ever since Screenwave started handling things for him, the videos are not as good. They're just not. And I'm saying that as someone who used to be with Screenwave and still has friends who are with Screenwave. But I'm not going to lie about it. Screenwave have caused a severe quality drop in the angry video game nerd. And that's just a fact. I hate to be that guy, but it's the truth. Not going to lie. No worries, wannabe. 7th, thoughts on Microsoft's rumor to buy Tomb Raider. I don't know. I don't know if Squeenix would be willing to give that up or not. I don't really see Microsoft buying rights to an IP. I would see them more buying the company that owns the IP. Because, come on, the studios they already own can't finish their own games. They're having to reach out to the people that made Tomb Raider to help them finish their new Perfect Dark game. So they're just going to buy the rights to Tomb Raider and have one of their studios make it? No. If they want Tomb Raider, they're going to end up, that would be not buying the IP, that would be them trying to buy Crystal Dynamics from Square Enix. What's up with Sony and Nintendo? History keeps on repeating itself with each other, with their handhelds and consoles being somewhat polar opposites. Well, I mean, Sony is backed out of that completely. You know, they're not in the handheld market at all. And conversely, Nintendo have backed out of the console market and are only making handhelds that can plug into a TV. So, kinda. I still haven't seen Rise of Skywalker. I got the Blu-ray, but don't have motivation to watch it. Well, basically, it's a great big retcon of The Last Jedi. So if you hated The Last Jedi, even though Rise of Skywalker kind of sucks, you're still going to like it more than The Last Jedi because it cancels out 99% of what was in The Last Jedi. And you'll know what I mean when you watch it. If they're still making money off the Vita, then why they discontinue it? Because they weren't making anything off of selling the hardware, but they're still making money off the store from people buying games for it. The world needs to watch George Carlin on Germs, and maybe it'll wake them up to the stupidity. At least James owns his character, unlike Nostalgia Critic. 7th, if someone ever made a 7th level video game based off of you, what would you want the premise and gameplay to be like? I'd want it to be a hybrid of a Metroidvania and Contra. So kind of like that indie game, what was it called? Omega Squad or Omega something. Kind of like that indie game, but starring me. Let's see here. Your background almost looks CGI because of the way it looked. Yeah. 7th, why did the PS3 last so long? Because the PS3 came out during a recession, and it took a long time for the economy to restore itself, and they weren't ready to risk bringing out new hardware yet, because they didn't feel the economy had recovered enough to support the launch of an additional console. And so, and on top of that, they still needed to have the PS3 become profitable so that they could clear their books on it and not be at a loss on it. So Microsoft did the same thing with the 360. In fact, the 360 lasted even longer because it came out a year before the PS3 did. I could care less for Luke Skycracker or Star Wars. Star Trek will always be better. Two different things. I like them both, but for different reasons. I hope someone makes that game of you now, 7th. Lol, hopefully it'll include your quotes. It's not going to happen, Ultra Steel, when my newest video is only pulling 100 views. Thank you. No one makes video games about guys that pull 100 views. And they never will. Eighth could have possibly made one at one time, but he kind of lost interest in the game dev thing and now wants to get into other things. Do you think there will be a PS5 Slim? Absolutely. I don't know if there will be a PS5 Pro, but there will certainly be a PS5 Slim. Oh, crack in the neck. And I'm going to remind everybody again that for those of you interested, 8th made a t-shirt design for me that's kind of a retro version of the 7th logo. I have a link to it pinned in my my Twitter profile, if anybody would want to wear that. It's the funniest thing, you know, when I was a lot bigger than I am now, I'd always have people wanting to know, you know, when you're going to have a shirt or cups or keychains and all this stuff. And I hemmed and hawed over it for years. And, you know, I finally have a couple of t-shirt designs. Nobody wants them. Nobody wants them. I think there's maybe been 2 people that have bought 7th t-shirts out there. And one of them was Titanfall Princess. Neither me nor 8th have played Metroid Dread. I still have the first 7th level shirt somewhere. I'm sure you do. J-Chip was the other person that bought one. 7th, have you ever gotten anyone into gaming? I'm guessing you introduced your buddy Jeff to video games back then. No, Jeff got into video games on his own. When I met him, he already had like a PS3 and everything. I can't think of anyone that I introduced to gaming aside from 8th. You know, I got 8th into gaming. Aside from that, no. Because, you know, when I was growing up as a kid, everyone in my neighborhood in the least had an Atari. And then when the Nintendo came out, everyone in my neighborhood had a Nintendo. And then you had the one kid who had the Sega Master System. It was always that way. And I've talked to friends over the years, and they always have the same story. Everyone in the neighborhood had an NES, and then you had this one kid who got a Sega Master System. Thoughts on the wrestler Kane? Never really got into the Kane thing all that much. Is the stream lagging? Not that I'm aware of. I'm not showing any delay on my monitors here. It shows I have a good solid connection. Damn, I've dropped down to 17 views. You guys are abandoning my ass. Good God. Can't even keep y'all interested for 3 hours no more. There she is. I still remember Nancy's video that she made about my t-shirt. She said she liked the design, but that the design was would have been better, I think she said, on the back, because on the front, for any ladies, if a lady bought the shirt and was well endowed, it was stretching the logo too far. I still remember the video. I watched it, and I appreciated her buying one. That was the only one she bought, though. She's never bought any of the new designs. Is 8th still in the chat? I don't know. I don't think so. He comes and goes, man. He's probably listening, but he's doing something else. 8th's a multitasker. He's always doing 2 or 3 things at once. He's kind of like me. There's a lot, there is a lot, and obviously from a genetic standpoint, sure, but there's a lot of me in 8th. And also, even though he barely ever met him, my cousin, who accidentally killed himself by breaking his own neck, I told you guys about him. 8th has a lot of his personality traits. He just has this kind of veneer of that cousin who he only met like a couple of times. But personality wise, he's like half that cousin and half me. Did you feel bad for Benny at the end of The Mummy? Not at all. He deserved it. Favorite Metroid game? The original. What was your favorite Star Trek series? The original. Metroid versus Killzone. Metroid. Thoughts on Matterfall? I have it, but I haven't really played it that much. For some reason, the stream... Yeah, I don't know what it was. I didn't even... Normally, if the stream lags, I'll get these little warning signs down here in the corner telling me that the data stream is going wonky. But I didn't get any of that, so I'd have to say that the problem is coming from YouTube this time, not from, like, my connection. Because if it was coming from my connection, I'd be getting a bunch of little warnings down here in the corner. Down in the corner. Oh, Nancy, that retro vertical shooter that you recommended to me, I added it to my wish list. I didn't buy it, but I added it to my wish list. Not that anybody buys me anything on my wish list. I mainly just use it to remind myself that I was interested in that game when I do have money. How did your cousin break his own neck? My cousin had a lot of health problems, and including a very rare form of arthritis that actually attacks the internal organs. And it was actually the second time he had broken his neck. The first time he broke his neck, he actually got up and was just bracing himself like this, and he walked down the street to his sister's house, and he's like, "Hey, I think you need to call the ER. I think I broke my neck." That's the kind of guy he was. He didn't really... it took a lot to phase him. He wasn't easily phased. But this time, the same thing happened. He had a health condition that would randomly cause him to pass out on his feet, and he'd fall over. Well, the first time it happened, it broke his neck, but it broke it in such a way that, you know, it wasn't like a full break. It was just like, you know, cracked. But this time, he was walking down the hallway of his house, and he passed out, and on the way down, his head hit the wall, and it snapped his neck. And they found him several hours later. And that's what happened. How'd you like that Flynn Crimson game, Nancy? Well, that may be Wannabe Gamer, but I don't like Picard as much as I like... I don't like Picard and Riker and Data as much as I liked Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. 7th, are you afraid of cockroaches? The big ones. No, I had to deal with palmetto bugs all the time when I lived in Florida. They also called them water bugs because when you squashed them, they'd spray this brown fluid everywhere, make this huge nasty stain. But you know, it didn't matter what you did. Palmetto bugs were getting into your apartment or your house or whatever, and so you know, they're gross, but I'm not afraid of them. Thoughts on the last Black Widow movie? Black Widow? I never really got into Deep Space Nine. How much do you miss Sarah? I don't really think about it, to be honest with you. I mean, you know, I think I've talked to her, not voice, but over text a couple of times since I moved here. That's about it. Combat is good. Yeah, I like it too. Any whiskey or bourbon recommendations? Not really, because I don't drink that much. Certainly not as much as I did before 8th was born. And even then, I wasn't like a heavy drinker because I have a very high tolerance, and that gets both expensive and dangerous. It reminded me of that Suikoden Denetsu game for SNES, but in 2D. Oh, Seiken Denetsu. I like the game. I haven't delved incredibly deep in it, but I'm enjoying it. That's basically what I'm using Game Pass for, is to play all the indie games that I don't have the money to buy on PSN. So, I didn't have the money to buy Flynn on PSN, but I can play it on Game Pass for nothing. So I'm using it for that, and I'm using it to capture footage of crappy games that I didn't want to have to actually buy. Are you looking forward to Metroid Dread? I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not looking forward to playing it on Switch. I just really don't like the Switch, man. I really don't like it, and I really don't like the fact that, you know, here it is, achievements came to consoles all the way back in 2005, but Nintendo still doesn't have them. Seventh, I'm planning a Friday the 13th marathon next weekend. Have you ever marathon those movies? Not all in a single day, but I've watched them over the course of a week in the month of October or whatever. Haven't done that in a long time though. And I tend to always skip 5 because I just really, really don't like 5 at all. Is the stream time early today? No, it always starts at 6 o'clock. I mean, it's still probably going to end at 9 o'clock because it's 7:30. We have an hour and a half left, and we've only had $10 of donations. This $15 is from last week, or from the last 7thCast. We've had $10 in donations. We're $40 short, so it's not going to get extended again. Power Rangers on the SNES was a classic. Yeah, I think I have it. What's your favorite video game Artur? I don't think I have one. I don't tend to buy games just because one particular person was involved in it. Like, oh, Hideo Kojima made another game. Is it good? Switch is better than the Wii U. In some ways. Thoughts on N64 and Genesis games coming to Switch? Well, it's the same Genesis games that everyone who's already bought the Genesis collection has. I mean, if it was going to be like super rare and obscure Genesis games that hardly anyone has ever played, then it might be worth getting excited over, but it's not. It's the same stuff that's been on the Genesis collections going back years. Are you going to go see the new Halloween movie? Nope. Jason wasn't in 5. Exactly. Play Metroid Dread on your PC with the Switch emulator. We'll see. Maybe I'll do that. 7th, what can us gamers do to get whining, incompetent gaming journalists out of the news? Don't read their stuff. Don't click on it. It'll cost them ad revenue, and there you go. They learned that back in 2014. Some of them did anyway. The ones that aren't around no more. Which industry is bigger, media versus video games? Video games is right up there. I don't know that I would definitely say they're bigger now, but they're right up there. What are your thoughts on Black Mirror? Only watched it a little bit. Haven't watched that much of it. No official D-pad Joy-Con ruined handheld mode for me fighting in retro game. 7th, have you played Within the Blade? Don't believe I have. Musha is going to be on the Genesis Switch collection. I had Musha back in the day, but That's one of the ones that really pisses me off because it was box complete and everything. I had the box, the manual, the whole bit. I liked Jason Takes Manhattan up until the point of that stupid ending where, you know, all the sewer water washed over him and turned him back into a little fat 12-year-old kid. It was a really dumb ending. "2022 could be a very packed year. We will see." Video games as a form of media. I think he was just basically saying video games versus more established mainstream media. Uh, Besides video games, what are some of Seventh's other hobbies? Uh, I used to be big into writing, not so much anymore. Uh, Guitar, movies, music. It's a really good ninja game. You should try it. I really think you'd like it. And what system is it on? How do you feel about Sea of Thieves? I haven't really played it because as a new player, it's hard to get into Sea of Thieves. The only way you can really get into Sea of Thieves as a new player is if you already have a bunch of friends who are playing it. Otherwise, it's very closed communities. People that you don't know don't want to let you be a part of their crew. And so I haven't had much of an experience with it because I don't know that many people that are still playing it at all. So, Seventh, did you like the Blade video games? They made me motion sick. Blade is based on the Blade movie. I didn't care for them. I didn't think they were very good. Seventh, I rewatched the movie Signs recently, and I know people have made fun of this movie over the years, but I like the theme of it. Water cleansing the demons. What do you think of the movie? Well, I mean, they aren't demons, they're aliens. And for me, both Eighth and I have had a good laugh over that because if aliens basically react to water like it's having acid poured in their face, why in the world would they try to conquer a planet that's 70% water? That makes the whole plot make zero sense. If they're this advanced race who has the technology to travel across the galaxy and reach us to try to conquer us, and they're allergic to water, why on earth, pun intended, would they try to take over Earth? There are moments in Signs that I like, but the overall plot is dumb. Are you looking forward to Black Adam? Yes. Seventh, do you have a VR headset? Sort of. Eighth has the PlayStation VR and he has the Oculus Rift. They never leave his room. When do you see PS5s finally being available for everyone at retail price? With things that are going on in the world right now, who knows? Is the 7thCast going to be bi-weekly or tri-weekly, if you get what I mean? Oh, you're still throwing the salt, are you, Clean Frame? I don't know, man. I don't know. Right now, I'm just playing it as it goes. Thoughts on Sora coming to Smash Brothers? I don't give a crap about Smash Brothers. Would be cool if Tenchu would get remade. Maybe. Seventh, Chris Stuckman theorized that the aliens in Sign were probably desperate for resources as they came to Earth last. I get what you're saying, it's still bizarre. Well, since there's absolutely nothing in the plot that would signify or even hint at that, that's mainly just Chris trying to defend something that he knows is indefensible by injecting more into the movie than is actually there. Don't get me wrong, I like Chris's videos, but come on. Uncharted 5 story would be to have Nate's daughter get captured and Nate have to come out of retirement to rescue her. Blah, blah, blah. Favorite M. Night Shyamalan movies? Can't say I have one. Not really. I guess it would have to be Unbreakable. That's the only movie that he's made where I really, really got into it. And I liked Split. I liked Split a lot. But I didn't like Glass. I didn't like Glass at all. Glass was gearing up to be something interesting. And then the whole, we're going to go blow up that skyscraper, ended up being BS. And you had this kind of lame WB network quality fight in front of this mental hospital. And Bruce Willis's character gets drowned in a mud puddle. Nah. And not even by one of the other villains, but by a cop who is aligned with whatever anti-metahuman secret society was the cops were aligned with. It was just dumb. You know, that's something that they could have kept going and building upon to where, you know, Shyamalan, if he had played his cards right, could have had his own cinematic universe. But no. He had to drown Bruce Willis in a mud puddle. Screw that movie. Nothing blowing your mind on the PS5 yet. Very rarely will a launch game truly blow my mind, although Ratchet and Clank really impressed me. I understand the themes in Signs Ultra Steel. I just don't think that they were done all that especially well. Seventh, what will Nintendo do after Switch? I think they're going to stay in the direction that they're headed now. At least until everything goes all digital and you can literally play anything anywhere, then I don't know what they're going to do. Did you like Resident Evil 8? I liked watching 8th play Resident Evil 8, but again, I'm not a big fan of Resident Evil to begin with. But I had a fun time watching him play it. Makes me not even want a PS5. By the time I can get one at retail, it'll be like 2 years old or more. Console cycle will be 25% over by then. Yeah, but, you know, the real bangers of a console never comes out the first year to 2 years anyway. Take the PS3, for example. Sure, they got Uncharted in 2007, and they got, you know, the newest Ratchet and Clank in 2007, I think. I think that was when Tools of Destruction came out. But the real bangers like Uncharted 2 and Killzone 2 and God of War 3 and all that, that didn't come out in the first 2 years of the PS3's life cycle. I'm still waiting on stupid Walmart to ship my PS5. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And I had a similar issue with Walmart because I'd managed to get an order in with them. And, you know, I wasn't getting an update, and I wasn't getting an update, and I wasn't getting an update. And then all of a sudden, the PS5 shows up on my doorstep, and then I get an update. Your PS5 is shipped. Walmart sucks, man. When it comes to pre-ordering things, Walmart sucks. I would avoid at all costs ever pre-ordering anything from Walmart again, especially when you consider how they did me with the Polymega. I'm still pissed off over that one. And I blame both Walmart and Polymega for that. Yeah, I don't know if I'll still be involved in gaming, period, once everything goes all digital, Nancy, because so much of what I enjoy about it is tied into the collecting. And if I can't collect no more, I don't know if I'll have the same interest in it. And I mean, let's face it, I'm 46 years old. As I get older, my hand-eye coordination is going to start to fail. It just is what it is. I'm gaming on borrowed time, guys. I'm gaming on borrowed time. Apparently, the aliens did successfully harvest some humans. Their agenda was never clear, sadly. That's because, Shyamalan is more about characters and twists than he is plot. That's why I feel like Unbreakable was his one success, because it's the best of all the movies that he's done at world building. It's still not on an MCU level, but as far as building a world that feels believable and lived in, that's the closest he's come. 7th, what will Nintendo's... I just answered that question. I said I don't know. That all depends on how fast all digital gets here. My feeling is that for right now, they'll come out with just a more powerful version of the Switch. And it'll be backwards compatible with all the old Switch games. Is Shyamalan a worse director or a worse writer? Yes. Collecting is just clutter to me. Well, that's fine. But you're not me. I'm me. And I like collecting. When games go all digital, I'll just buy a plug-and-play system. Who's to say they'll even have plug-and-play systems anymore? Did you have any poster recommendations? Not really. I've never claimed to be a poster movies and games that I like. And the occasional band. I've got Iron Maiden here. I got Kiss over there. Speaking of digital media, I got a bunch of free movies from my neighbor, and I threw away some of them. Victor Salva movies like Jeepers Creepers and Powder, and Justin Bieber films. Good call? Lol. Well, I actually saw Powder and Jeepers Creepers at the theater. And I liked them very much at the time. And then I found out his history, and I haven't watched them since. Even though I really like the first Jeepers Creepers film. How tall are your bookshelves? I don't know. Like 6.5, 7 feet? Something like that? I don't know. I've never measured them. Probably like 7 feet. I'm somewhere around 5'8", 5'9". I can reach the top without having any issues. Did you like Pennywise in the It films? Yes, I did. Hey, 7th, that man's history is why I threw those movies away. I got that, Ultra Steel. I got that. Digital gaming and entitled devs. Just wait for it. Well, you're not wrong. Jeepers Creepers 3 is a dumpster fire filled with fire and piss. One of the worst movies I've ever seen. I think I've seen Jeepers Creepers 3. I want to say I watched it, and it was so bad that I don't remember any of it other than the fact that I watched it. I also saw Jeepers Creepers 2 in the theater and hated it. Did you think Jeepers Creepers was scary? I didn't think it was scary. My wife at the time was terrified by it and was very angry at me for taking her to see it. But then again, she also got terrified when we went to see 13 Ghosts at the theater. She was a very easily scared person when it came to movies. 7th, JTech TV said he was nothing like Crap Gamer. Why were you watching him to hear him say that in the first place? Good Lord. Are you a fan of Candyman? I love the original. I have not seen the remake. I didn't like any of the Candyman sequels, but I loved the original. Are you a fan of Rob Zombie's music? I loved his stuff, and then I liked his original stuff. I'm not much of a fan of his more recent stuff. And he's only really made one movie that I liked, and that was House of a Thousand Corpses. I was not a big fan of the two sequels because they didn't feel at all like the original film. The original film felt like an homage to Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1 and 2, and the second and third film felt like 70s era exploitation movies. They felt like Rob Zombie trying to do Quentin Tarantino. I just answered your question, wannabe. Did you enjoy God of War Ascension? The gameplay was fine. Didn't care for the story. I'd already gone through, 2 God of War prequels on the PSP by then. Do you like the Paranormal Activity films? I liked the first couple of them. The rest of them are pretty much trash. The new Candyman is good, way better than the 2 sequels. Well, when I can watch it and not have to pay for it, I will. Hillbilly Deluxe by Rob Zombie's in my top 5. Do you think Rob Zombie's wife is hot? No. What's the worst stomach ache you've ever had? Well, I do have a number of chronic stomach ailments. So I occasionally, and I've even had this strike me live on the 7thCast. I don't know if you'll remember that, but a year or two ago, I had one of these attacks live during the 7thCast, and I literally had to just kind of hold my head down like this and try to wait for it to pass. And basically, the experience that I have is similar to what someone would feel having a severe gallbladder attack. But I don't have anything wrong with my gallbladder. And the doctors have just attributed it to IBS or something to that extent. But it basically just feels like everything across here is suddenly made out of concrete and is trying to push its way out of my body. And it's not like, trapped gas or anything like that, because that moves around. This stays, even when it's trapped, it still kind of moves and it ebbs and flows. This becomes just a constant agonizing pain that's pushing outward, that stretches all the way across here. And every time that it happens, I break out in a sweat, and I get nauseous almost to the point like I feel like I'm going to pass out. And so what I end up having to do, and I didn't do it the night that it happened on here live because I didn't want to have to turn everything off, is I have to go and wet a washcloth and just lay it on my head to keep my temperature down. and then all I can do is just wait for it to pass. And I have had some attacks with that last an hour, last 20 minutes. But at the same time, I've had some that have lasted for days, like 2 and 3 days, where I couldn't even sleep because the pain was so bad. And, I've had upper and lower GI. I've had all this stuff. There's no cancer. There's no ulcers. They don't know. They don't know. Other than to tell me to take probiotics because they feel it could be related to irritable bowel syndrome. It started like before I moved here. It started in like 2014 or 2015, somewhere around in there. And it's not something that happens frequently. At the most, it's like an every 6 months kind of thing. But it's not fun. Rob Zombie's wife has no body. I'm more just not into her personality and her acting ability more than anything else. 7th, did you see Chappelle's new? Yeah, I saw The Closer. I rewatched it with 8th today. Was Uncharted Golden Abyss any good? It's good. I think it went overboard with the collectibles to stretch out its replayability. Had too many collectibles. And I didn't feel the motion controls were good enough in the Vita for them to use them as heavily as they did in Uncharted. Do Xbots have a point when they say PlayStation not having games through October, December is a detriment? No, they do not. And this is a frequent and repeated talking point of General MLD, and I have shot him down on it every time he uses it, to the point where every time I shoot him down on it now, he pretends that he doesn't see the tweet. I've explained this 1,000 times. I'll explain it again. Starting all the way back on the PS3, during that era, Call of Duty became a phenomenon. And Call of Duty would always, at that time, release around the early to mid-November. And Sony decided very early on that they didn't want their first-party exclusives that would only sell on PlayStation to have to compete with the juggernaut that was Call of Duty. And so they basically structured their entire launch calendar around avoiding the annual Call of Duty game. And so instead of having a whole bunch of releases come out in September through December, their releases primarily would run from January to the end of May or possibly a couple of weeks into June. And they have kept that ever since. There's been a few exceptions. There's been 1 or 2 of the Uncharted's that came out in November. I think it was Uncharted 3 came out in November. Little Big Planet usually came out in the fall. And 1 or 2 of the Ratchet and Clank games came out in the fall. But if you look back, Killzone 2 came out in the wintertime. God of War 3, wintertime. You just go through Infamous, winter to spring. And they have kept that calendar with the exception of a couple of assorted, isolated ones like the ones I just mentioned, and launch year. They would always have 1 or 2 first-party launch titles that would come out in November with the console, like with the PS4 and the PS5. But everything else, January into the first couple of months of June. One other exception to that would be the first Spider-Man game. I think it came out somewhere in like July, but it had a delay, and that delay was possibly because they didn't want to compete with God of War 2018 that came out in like April. And so Spider-Man came out later in the year, later in the summer. But for the most part, that is Sony's window. They are not known and have not been known for launching a bunch of exclusives in the latter months of the year, and they have avoided that time frame for a long time, short of when the year a new console launches, because they want something to draw people to the new console for Christmas, and that's it. It has nothing to do with being dry or not having anything to release. That's just not when they release games. I mean, think about, we've had several good games that have come out from January up till now already, whereas Microsoft have had nothing but the medium. And so now Microsoft is releasing all theirs towards the end of the year. They're not afraid of having to compete with other games because their first-party exclusives aren't going to make them sales money anyway, because they're all going to be free on Game Pass. So to them, it doesn't matter when they release a game. But Sony is still going by the calendar that they started using during the PS3 era, at least. They may have started using it all the way back with the PS2. But that's what's going on. That's what's been going on, and that's what's still going on. It's a bunch of nothing. And I've explained this to him time and time and time again. And every time he posts something about this on Twitter, you can look at his replies. I'm right there calling his bullshit. Oh, by the way, $1 hour remaining. We've had $10 in donations. Moving along. Have you played Control for the PS? No, I have not. 8th has played Control. I have not. I don't know why. It's just, running around in an office building, blowing stuff up. Just, for me, I kind of like to have both an exciting character, an exciting story, and cool, varied environments. And just running around blowing up a bunch of desks just doesn't do it for me. Seventh, does 8 like Kingdom Hearts? Well, he did up until Kingdom Hearts 3. And, he still played Kingdom Hearts 3 and still enjoyed it. But, he's complained about it ever since it came out. And I understand why. There wasn't nothing wrong with the gameplay. That was basically the Pixar game, because most of what was in it was based on Pixar movies or Disney animation CG movies like Big Hero 6 or whatever. They didn't cover enough of the hand-drawn stuff. I know it didn't set the world on fire box office wise, but why can't we have a Kingdom Hearts level that takes place in Treasure Planet or Atlantis: The Lost Empire? No, we got to have all these Pixar games. And I'm sorry, but some Pixar games aren't really interesting enough to have a gameplay world in. They're just not. The Finding Dory or Finding Nemo level component or whatever. What am I thinking of? It's just not as fun with some of those Pixar worlds that they used. And I mean, they've done live action Disney movies too. They've done Pirates of the Caribbean. They did Tron. Why couldn't we have a world in Kingdom Hearts based on The Rocketeer or The Black Hole Escape from which mountain? If they're gonna delve into the live action stuff. You get what I'm saying? Yes, Pirates of the Caribbean. I mean, if they're willing to do Tron and they're willing to, delve into pirates a little bit, why not Rocketeer? Why not Escape from Witch Mountain? Why not The Black Hole? Why not 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea? Why not Island at the Top of the World? Why not Condor Man? There's a lot of fun live action Disney movies that they're not even touching. And animated ones that they're not touching. Like Treasure Planet. Like Atlantis the Lost Empire. Like The Black Cauldron. Oh my gosh. How fun would a world in Kingdom Hearts be that was based on The Black Cauldron? Kingdom Hearts 3 was just a real major disappointment. And yeah, J-Chip, if they continue Kingdom Hearts, it wouldn't be shocking at all if the whole thing was a bunch of Star Wars and Marvel levels this next time coming around. Count me out on that. Everything was great up until Kingdom Hearts 3, and that's when it went downhill for me. Gameplay was fine. World selection was horrible. Horrible. And plus, the overall story had gotten so convoluted by that point. It's like, I didn't even care about the continuing story and how it ended anymore because, it had stopped making sense halfway through the second game. So, I've been playing Tales of Arise, and it's the slightest below game of the year you can get with a game. What do you think? I haven't gotten to play it. I own it, but I haven't gotten to play it. Has Disney taken over the box office movie market? Just about. Just about. If they bought Warner Brothers and Paramount, that'd be it. It's because they're probably only going for the most recognizable world's characters. Haven't played Kingdom Hearts 3, though. Well, I understand why they did it. They did it because there was so much time that passed between Kingdom Hearts 2 and Kingdom Hearts 3 that they were gearing it towards a more current generation who mainly grew up watching the CG Disney and Pixar movies. That's why they did it. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. Most of the kids nowadays, they don't know anything about Condor Man. They don't know anything about the Black Cauldron. They don't know anything about the Black Hole. They don't know anything about 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, at least not the Disney version. They know The Incredibles, and they know Toy Story, and mainly they only know Toy Story because Toy Story 4, because they weren't born when the first two came out. That's one thing, J-Chip, when it comes to Square Enix and the Japanese side of Square Enix trying to have an ongoing storyline that stretches across multiple entries. The story of it and the plotting gets so convoluted that you can't really follow it past a certain point. And Kingdom Hearts was easy to understand in the first game, but then when it got to the second game, where you already had the Heartless, and then you had the what were the other ones called, the Soulless or whatever they were, and everyone had an alternate version of themselves, and some of their alternate versions had alternate versions of themselves, and it just got too convoluted and too stretched out to really follow it anymore. And so then it all became about the gameplay and what Disney movies that they were going to be pulling in. Seventh, do you think it's impossible for Disney to go bankrupt at this point? No, it's never impossible. It's never impossible. It's highly unlikely, but it's not impossible. Disney has lost a ton of money in the last 18 months. It's just, they had already made so much money that it wasn't going to instantly knock them out of things. But Disney is in a position where if something disastrous happened, they could easily sell off several businesses and still be fine. But there's no such thing as a corporation that is truly infallible or 100% safe. Disney has been at the point of bankruptcy before, back in the early 80s. It's not impossible. Are you excited about the Knights of the Old Republic remake? Not especially because of some of the writers that are involved. What was your favorite Kingdom Hearts world? I'd have to think about that one. I can tell you that my least favorite was probably Winnie the Pooh. At least in the original games. I liked how they incorporated Tron in the second one. But overall, I don't know. I think Slick. I think Kingdom Hearts is a case where if you play anything more than the first game, you're going to get confused. Do you like the What If show? Not especially. I've liked a couple of the episodes, but overall, I haven't even watched the most recent episode, I don't think. Do you have a game of the year this year? Not really. The closest thing to a game of the year that I would have would be Ratchet and Clank, but I don't think it was quite long enough to be game of the year. I tend to look at game of the year. I tend to look at ones where I just got engrossed for hours and hours and hours and hours into the world and didn't get bored with it. And I loved Ratchet and Clank, but I finished it in less than 20 hours of game time. So, and those games don't really need to be super long. But since Sony hasn't put out a game this year that had a 40 or 50 hour campaign, it is what it is. Oh yeah, I definitely didn't like the Little Mermaid level because the swimming mechanic in it was just a major pain in the butt. Have you seen the Christopher Robin movie with the guy who played Obi-Wan? Yes. I liked it. I liked it. Are you excited for Hogwarts Legacy next year? I'm curious. I want to see more of the gameplay. Say what you will about the Harry Potter books. I felt that the movies were done in a way where both kids and adults could enjoy them. I liked the Harry Potter movie franchise. I haven't cared for the magical creature ones or whatever all that much. The first one was okay, but that second one, oh my God. That movie was terrible. Absolutely horrible. Hi, Callum Hunter. But, I'm curious to see more of what the gameplay is like. Hopefully, uh, the attempts to cancel them for making that game won't really cause them too many changes or problems or revisions or whatnot. I don't even remember what the controversy was. I think one of the people that was working on the game had said some edgelord stuff on Twitter a few years ago or some crap. Yeah, the third Harry Potter movie, Prisoner of Azkaban, that's my favorite of the whole series. Because I love Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman is a fantastic actor, and I loved him as Sirius Black. He was fantastic as Sirius Black. And that was one thing that I really hated, was killing Sirius Black off. I understand from a writer's perspective why Rowling chose to go that route with him. But I would have loved, just from a movie standpoint, to have been able to have more Sirius Black than what we got, because Gary Oldman did so well with that role. It's not just that Crimes of Grindelwald was boring. The script was terrible. I mean, say what you will about J.K. Rowling, she can write a good book. She is not good at writing scripts, and it was a terrible script. Crimes of Grindelwald versus Attack of the Clones, which was worse? Crimes of Grindelwald. At least Attack of the Clones was well structured and made sense. Jeremy Jahns versus Stuckman. Who do you prefer? Stuckman. I barely watched Jeremy Jahns. Chamber of Secrets was my favorite. I like Chamber of Secrets, but I think my two favorites, my top three for the entire Harry Potter franchise would be number 1, Prisoner of Azkaban, number 2, Deathly Hallows Part 2, and number 3 would be The Goblet of Fire. Movies wise, not the books, but the movies. Cancel culture impacting media like that is just ridiculous. Many people change over time. Besides, I'll bet the people trying to do the canceling aren't angels either. Would you agree? Yeah, if you dug into their backgrounds a little bit, there's no telling what you'd find. I mean, a lot of them have been exposed as kitty diddlers. So I mean, it never fails. It's like, for every time one of these guys tries to start some big controversy and cancel somebody, someone in their circle will end up being outed as a sex offender. It's like clockwork. The only Harry Potter movie I wasn't a huge fan of was the 6th movie. I can understand that. My least favorite Harry Potter movie is the Deathly Hallows Part 1, because so much of it is them just hiding in a tent. To me, it's the slowest of the Harry Potter films because of all the scenes of them just, living in a tent trying to hide. As far as Chamber of Secrets is the bomb, the basilisk, the giant spiders, and the sword. I didn't like the Sword of Gryffindor because it didn't look like an actual, the prop that they used for it didn't look like an actual sword you would go into battle with. It looked like the ceremonial sword that a king would use to knight somebody, but not one they'd actually go out and fight with. It didn't look like an actual battle-ready weapon. It looked like something ceremonial. In fact, to me, it looked like the plastic swords that they sold in the gift shop after you got off the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disney World. That's what it looked like to me. Yeah, I know all about Chris Chan being in jail. And I know why he's in jail. I know the whole thing. That's kind of old news at this point, Callum. What do you think is the... Well, I just answered that, Shadow. Have you ever used a trackball mouse? Well, of course. Back in the day, I hated having to clean them. It was a pain in the butt. Well, I don't, Shadow. I think Deathly Hollows Part 1 is the weakest, and I told you why. Are you excited for the new Dune? Yes, very much. That being said, I will not be going to see it in the theater. I will be watching it on HBO Max. $8:22, folks. We're almost down to the last 30 minutes. And we're back down to 17 viewers again, too. Man, we're up and down. But that's what I get for not being able to be consistent. My bad. I mean, if I wanted to really make this thing bigger, I could bring other people in and turn it into a multi-person thing like Weapon Wheel or the Spawn Cast or whatnot. But then it wouldn't be what it is now. And the main reason that you guys come to watch is because you get direct interaction with me, and you wouldn't get that if this was a multi-person cast. So the Sword of Gryffindor is a British sword. It's not really designed for a massive battle. There are multiple different types of swords that were used in Britain over the years, and some of them were big enough to cut you in twain. The Sword of Gryffindor looks like the one that the king would keep on his hip for ceremonies and stuff. It doesn't look like a sword you would take into battle. It doesn't even look like a sword that you would use in a duel. 7th, which character do you think was had a longer lasting impact on the media? Mickey Mouse or Bugs Bunny? Mickey Mouse, because Bugs Bunny has never really been consistently used by Warner Brothers the way Disney has consistently kept Mickey Mouse out there. Yes, there's been new Looney Tunes shows, but they have a very fringe audience as compared to Bugs Bunny's heyday during the original Looney Tunes cartoons. And let's face it, Looney Tunes Back in Action and the sequel to Space Jam haven't exactly set the world on fire. Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings? Lord of the Rings. Which phone do you like more, Android or Apple? I have one of each. I use my Android all the time. My Apple phone is my corporate phone, and I only use it when someone calls me. Would you strip like Review Tech to draw an audience? Absolutely not. I have my pride. I won't talk to Dollar Tree chickens either. And it would look very comical with a young 13-year-old with a massive sword. Really? I'm not saying massive sword. I'm not saying that the Sword of Gryffindor should have been a 7-foot-long claymore. I'm not saying that Harry should have been running around with the Braveheart sword. I'm saying that in my mind, I pictured the Sword of Gryffindor to be more similar to the prop from the movie Excalibur. If you've never seen Excalibur, I would recommend you go watch it. What Harry Potter house do you belong to? None, because I'm an American adult. I'm not Ray Fresh. It's not a matter of not being man enough. It's a matter that if I'm not entertaining enough just through my creativity, my writing ability, my ability to talk on a subject and make it interesting, then I have no business doing this. I'm certainly not going to resort to just, sensationalism like stripping on camera or, filling my stream with stupid random props. Whoops, I got to replace my batteries. I mean, let's be honest. If I was that type of streamer to where, I was going to resort to cheesy stuff like that, then, I would be doing all of my streams in stuff like this. And I'd be like, hey guys, how's it going? 7th here, blah, blah, blah. I'm in for a great big exciting night for you guys, blah, blah, blah. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like and comment and kiss my ass and follow my Twitter and send me lots of money. Hey, let's have a dance jam. Dun, 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 dun. I don't do that stupid shit. Look, I have multiple modes. Oh, I'm modern now. Look, I'm going to give you a seizure. Da, 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 da. I don't do that stupid shit. And the reason I had that on me, by the way, is because I've been doing this thing. I've been trolling my coworkers. Oh, God. I've been trolling my coworkers because we all have to have weekly Microsoft Teams video meetings. And I told my boss, it's not a good idea to put me on a camera in a live meeting. You're going to regret it. And so every week I put on some other stupid thing and I just turn the camera on and make a fool of myself and then turn it off. And that's how every meeting has started for the last several weeks. So one time I dressed up as Freddy Krueger. One time I wore that mask with the flashing lights. One time I wore my Anonymous mask. No, I was never a member of Anonymous. And, I've just kind of done something stupid every week just to make them regret ever having agreed to have me on camera. So no, I haven't seen the new James Bond film. Harry Potter or Star Wars? Harry Potter over modern Star Wars, that's for damn sure. Have you seen Peaky Blinders? No. Hopefully you don't turn into Nico Avocado. Ain't that guy that eats himself sick on camera? I haven't seen any of his videos, but I've heard about him. That mask is taking off. Been seeing it everywhere. That's because it only costs $10. And I bought it specifically to mess with my coworkers. That's the only reason I own it. And if you look real close, it's just another Anonymous mask that's been painted black and had little lights put on it. I mean, look. It's the same mask. It even has the mustache. See it? It's just an anonymous mask painted black with lights put on it. Or, to be more accurate, a Guy Fawkes mask. When was the last time you had Whataburger? Yesterday. I am happy to say that they have opened a new Whataburger. Damn it, my glasses keep getting fogged up. They've built a new Whataburger just a couple of blocks from my house, so I no longer have to drive 20 minutes to get to one. And so Fridays are me and Eight's fast food cheat day. We allow ourselves fast food once a week. And more often than not lately, it's been Whataburger, because Whataburger is the best fast food burger, and they're right up the street from our house now. That mask looks like it came from the Purge film. I don't like the Purge movies. But like I said, the only reason I have it is because it's $8. It was like $8 or $10. I also, as you guys know, I have a Bane mask somewhere. It's out in the garage. And I have a Ghostbusters Slimer mask where your face is visible inside Slimer's mouth. And you got little Slimer arms sticking out this way. I don't know where that one is either. It's somewhere out in the garage. I don't have a Jason mask. I'd like to have one of those. I don't have a Michael Myers mask. I'd like to have one of those. I have a werewolf mask around here somewhere, and I did that one. I did that one in my my meeting too, but I don't know where that one is. It's lying around here somewhere. Here's my Freddy Krueger hat. And the Freddy Krueger mask is lying on the floor. It's not a good one. It's a cheap one. It's not even a full head mask. It's just a mask that's held on the front with a rubber band. It's just a little cheap one. What does you and Eight's Whataburger order look like? I get the double Whataburger and Eighth gets the patty melt. That, or if they have like he tends to cycle. He'll get the patty melt for a while, and then he'll want to get like one of their hot jalapeno burgers or whatever, and then he'll go back to the patty melt. Me, I always get the double Whataburger with cheese. Have you kept up with the Gabby Petito story? No, I have not. I don't know who that is. I miss Sega having their own console. A lot of people do. That being said, every time another rumor about Microsoft buying someone else out comes out, Sega is one of the first names that comes up. Microsoft fans really want Microsoft to buy Sega. Sega Sammy. Because then they would not only get Sega, they would get all of Sammy's back catalog, and they would get Atlas. And honestly, I think that would, if Microsoft were looking to try to get a more of a foot in the door in the Japanese market, that would be a smart move for them. Because, Sega aren't exactly doing great financially. And Sega has a long-running history with Microsoft. In fact, when the Dreamcast was going to be discontinued, one of the first things that Sega tried to do was convince Microsoft to buy them and make their console the Dreamcast 2. And Microsoft said, no thank you, but we'll be happy to release your games as exclusives on the Xbox console. But secretly, Microsoft did make the Dreamcast 2. That was the first Xbox, because they completely ripped off Sega as far as their ideas for what a console should be. Agreed, J-Chip. Phantasy Star Online can kiss my fat white ass. Give me Phantasy Star 5. That's what I want. That's what I've been asking for decades, and they're not giving it to me. Magic powers. Seventh, will you be having a 7th cast next week, or will that not happen because of Halloween? Well, next Saturday, would only be the 16th, and Halloween's on the 31st. So unless I get called into work that Saturday, there should be a 7th cast, yes. The only reasons that I will not be putting on a 7th cast is that it's the actual holiday weekend, which next weekend is not, or I get called into work that Saturday, or if something bad happens, like 8th getting into a car accident like he did a few weeks ago. Well, like I said, the direction that Microsoft has chosen is the direction that the industry is going in. It's the direction that I predicted many, many years ago that the industry would go in before anyone else was talking about it. And so from that perspective, yes, Microsoft will be successful. Pennywise reminds me of John Wayne Gacy. I'm pretty sure that's intentional, Juggernauts. I'm not a fan of recent stuff Jim Ryan's been saying. Well, get used to it. Get used to it. I warned you guys. I gave you plenty of warning that if and when Microsoft started to push towards an all-digital future, that Sony would quickly follow suit. They haven't announced it yet. But don't be surprised when Sony announces their answer to Game Pass. It's coming. It's just a matter of time. I do not believe that Sony will make their first-party games day and date on their answer to Game Pass. My guess is that they'll make it to where their first-party releases will show up on their answer to Game Pass 6 months to a year after it's released, because they're still going to want to get that sales revenue, because Microsoft has abandoned sales revenue and they're going pure subscription. Sony wants both. Sony wants you subscribed and they want you buying the games. But Sony makes games that don't bury you in all of the microtransactions and loot boxes and additional purchases and all that kind of thing. So it's kind of a, you get some of the good with some of the not so good. But for me, it's all good because I prefer physical media anyway. I like to collect. I like to have it on my shelf. That being said, we have 20 minutes left to go. There's only been $10 in donations. I don't think we're extending tonight, my friends. It's just not going to happen. I'm worried about subscriptions taking over gaming. Well, you're about to get really worried. Was there anybody during the Crumbside days that would match your debating skills that you enjoyed debating with? Not really. I enjoyed debating with MLD, but the problem with MLD is that his research was always decidedly one-sided. The only things that he would research were the things that made Microsoft look good. He didn't do enough research into what Sony was doing, and that's why I completely blindsided him time and time again, because I knew about what both Microsoft and Sony were doing, and he only knew on one side of it. So as much as I enjoyed debating with MLD, there wasn't really anybody in the community that ever gave me much of a challenge. And you also need to remember that back during my day, it wasn't called the Crumb Side, it was just the console war community. Crumb Side came after that, when all of the Xbox Republic guys and several of the Trey Brotherhood guys too dropped out and replaced by people that were trying to turn it into a business. Do you think 2000 would be enough to build a gaming PC? Well, like 8th said, that depends on what you want to run and at what quality you want to run it at. With the prices of current graphic cards, I would say that 2000 would not be enough if what you're looking for is, consistent, more than 60 frames per second at 4K. Because even the new cards aren't consistently hitting that, not at like 4K native. Who was better, Reggie Fils-Aimé, or however that's pronounced, and Jack Tretton? You got to keep in mind that Jack Tretton was over, the resurgence of the PS3 and the success of the PS4 to some extent. Sean Layden took over after him during that period. And Reggie was there during the success of the Wii, but also the bitter failure of the Wii U. So I'd say they were probably on equal footing. Blackbuster Critic could have given you a challenge. Not really, because we agreed on 99% of the stuff. I'd have to look at hardware prices, but 2K may not be enough for 4K 60. Oh, yeah, that's 8th. Do we need a remake for... I'd rather get a remake of Zelda 2. I don't know. I'm getting kind of tired of all the remakes. Do you think Nintendo should do a style of Link's Awakening from Link to the Past? No, I think they should make new games, and that goes for everybody. I'm starting to get tired of the remakes. Yes, I would love a remake or reboot of Legend of Dragoon, but getting a remake of a game that I felt was perfect as it was, like Link to the Past, no, I don't see the point in that. I would prefer to have remakes of games that were lesser known, like Legend of Dragoon, which was a great game, but that was not the game seller that Final Fantasy was. Oh. Do you think Review Tech USA could have given you a challenge? It's all in the research, man. And not to disparage Rich, because again, I get along with Rich, but when you compare Rich historically to me, between the two of us, who has had to record more retractions and delete videos because of factual inaccuracies, him or me? I rest my case. Favorite Mega Man game? Mega Man 2. The downside to Mega Man 2 was it was also the easiest, but it had the best soundtrack, and it had my favorite levels. $2,000 could have built a computer that would run Cyberpunk before the ridiculous price hike of graphics cards that's taken place in the last year and a half. If they were selling, if current graphics cards were selling at the same price range as what graphics cards were selling for prior to the chip shortage and everything, then yeah, you could probably build a computer that would do that for $2,000. Not so much now. We're down to the last 15 minutes, folks. 15-minute warning. I'll sail away. Who has a better gunblade design, Squall or Lightning? More important question, who the F cares? I didn't like 8, and I certainly didn't like 13. Are you going to watch the final season of The Walking Dead? Of course not. I stopped watching The Walking Dead halfway through the season where they were all living on that old man's farm. It got so boring that I couldn't stand it, and I quit watching, and I haven't gone back. Not even for Negan. I only know who Negan was because I've seen clips of Negan. That show started boring me to tears when they were living on that stupid farm, and I haven't gone back, and I won't. Once you've lost me, you've lost me. Strike one, you're out. Oh. What's your favorite fictional weapon? Krull, the glaive. I love the glaive. I wish I had a movie prop, authentic recreation of the glaive that I could just hang on my wall. But they're too damn expensive. Favorite Game of Thrones season? I have no idea. Because they all just started to blend together in my head once it went downhill. Probably the season with the Red Wedding. Living on a farm in a zombie apocalypse. Where have I seen that before? Indeed. But really, nowadays, it's, a zombie apocalypse. Where have I seen that before? God, I'm so sick of zombies. They even put zombies in the most recent episode of the Doom Patrol. And I'm like, really? I mean, it was funny, but still, really? Everything's got to have zombies in it now. Sick to death of zombies. The only way I could be any more sick of zombies than I am now is if coronavirus mutated and started turning people into zombies. That's literally the only way I could be any more tired and disgusted of zombies than I am. What's the first thing to do in an apocalypse according to 7th? Uh, Raid the Walmart before it gets to your neighborhood, and then go find an island to be on. Preferably an island with wildlife, so you could kill and strip and eat. You know, catch some fish, hunt some wild boar, kill some bird. Because historically, zombies are not very good swimmers. There have been some Italian zombie movies where they've walked across the bottom of the water. Did you like World War Z? Not especially. Not especially. No, I'm not playing Far Cry 6. The last Far Cry I played was Primal. Do you know how to hunt 7th? I know well enough. I never really liked going hunting with my dad, but he taught me a few things. I know, I'm a pretty good shot with a rifle. I'm a decent shot with archery with a bow. You know, and how to clean a kill. It's just not something that I've ever done for fun or enjoyment. Did you like A Quiet Place? It was all right. 8th liked it a lot more than I did. What will be the next craze after zombies? I don't know. I mean, I've been seeing an awful lot in the wake of the Coof. I've been seeing an awful lot of epidemic movies coming out, low budget direct to video things lately. So maybe that's going to be the next thing. I don't know. I just know that I'm tired of zombies. I've had my fill. I would prefer uh, instead of zombie apocalypse movies, moving more towards the Deadites and Evil Dead. I'd rather have that because they're more interesting. I didn't like Bird Box at all. I'm bored to tears in that movie. Bored to tears. But that's also potentially where horror is going to be. Where horror is going to be going is in the gimmick horror film. Like A Quiet Place. Can't make any noise, the aliens will get you. Or Bird Box. Got to keep your eyes covered or the beast, the nasties will get you. The next one will probably be, oh, you can't fart. They're attracted to gas. And the movie will be called The Fartening. And then the sequel will be The Fartening 2. Silent but deadly. Ever seen Hush? Oh, where the deaf woman's getting stalked by a killer? Yeah, I've seen it. Turkey or ham? I tend to only eat turkey during Thanksgiving. Otherwise, I would go with ham. Ash vs. Evil Dead was a cool show, but it wasn't what it could have been. And they picked the wrong network to put it on. It was on Stars, And Stars is not a huge network. It's not as popular, but they already had a working relationship with Stars because they had produced the Spartacus show on Stars. And so that was the easiest sell they were going to make as far as pitching it to a network was on Stars. But it just didn't have, because of it being on Stars, it didn't have the audience to sustain it. And that's why we only got 3 seasons. Finished Lost Judgment, excellent game. We have that original Judgment game, but we haven't bought Lost Judgment. What do you think about games where you have to break down false walls and look through every nook and cranny to proceed? I like the mechanic in general, but that being said, it can be overdone. Did you think Freddy vs. Jason failed? I think it could have been better. The main problem with Freddy vs. Jason is that it felt more like an action comedy than it did a legitimate horror film. There was no more terror about Freddy or Jason, and part of that came from the fact that you didn't care about their targets. You didn't care about the teenager characters in that film. It didn't do enough to establish them and make you care about them so that you were more afraid for their safety. But secondly, most of what happened in those movies was played for that movie was played for yucks. So yes, it's a lot of fun, but for fans of the original Nightmare on Elm Street, or especially the first 4 Friday movies, not so much. And Kane Hodder should have been Jason for that movie. But they wanted someone who was going to be much taller and tower over Freddy. So that's why they went with this other guy. I would have rather seen Kane Hodder. He is the best Jason. Period. Would you like to see an Ash versus Everyone movie? Yes, absolutely. You know, if all of them were in their prime. It's too late now. But back in the day, like in the mid-90s, and Ash versus Freddy versus Jason versus Pinhead movie, sign me up. 7th, I know you and I hate zombies, but are you more into werewolves? It depends on the movie. Depends on the movie. You know, I really loved American Werewolf in London. I liked the original Howling. But more recent werewolf outings, not so much. I loved the werewolves in Van Helsing. I thought there was a lot of things wrong with Van Helsing, but the werewolves were fantastic. If those were in modern CG, a lot better. I liked elements of the remake of The Wolfman that had Anthony Hopkins and what was that actor's name? Benicio del Toro or whatever. I liked that movie. Elements of it. It dragged a little bit, but I really liked it a lot. I'll tell you what I wish had been successful but wasn't, was Dracula Untold. I really liked that movie. I know it didn't do well, but I really, really liked that movie. And I would have liked to have seen it be put into that whole dark universe thing that Universal tried to do, but failed with their Tom Cruise reboot of The Mummy. Because dude was a great Dracula. I thought he was really good in that film. I've seen No Country for Old Men. But it's been so long ago that I don't even remember the ending. And honestly, I never thought Freddy or Jason movies were scary. Scariest horror movie, in my opinion, was the Ju-On series. The original Nightmare on Elm Street, for the time that it was made, was a scary movie. Watching it now doesn't affect me, but then again, I know everything that happens in it. But back in the day, it had some pretty creepy crap in it. Oh yeah, it's 9 o'clock. We only had $10 in donations, so this is where I have to say goodbye. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye. I gotta go. I gotta depart. So be thinking of things that you want to ask me for the next 7th cast, so you'll have lots and lots of questions that I can pontificate on and keep you entertained and glued to the screen. So until then, folks, until next time, same 7th time, same 7th channel,